I'm prompted to share a few more things that maybe this can resonate with anybody who chooses to watch this video. And part of this is simply what I just experienced just now. Somebody looks at me, right? Not with a smile, just looks at me, okay? It's just like, I've got a smile, they don't, right? This is when we get into fear-based programming, by the way. And this is how insidious that it actually gets. So there's probably three things that I thought were important that I wanted to cover here, okay? Which deal with, one, timelines. Sort of a common term is used, psychic energy or psychic timeline, okay? Psychic meaning, you know, your mind, if you will. With me, I think of it as neurotransmitters, okay? Because the heart has the most powerful neurotransmitters, okay? That's the biggest magnetic power plant we all have. It's the heart. So it's like a high-speed communicator, okay? Neurons, neurotransmitters are transmitting what? What you're aware of, okay? So you're aware of more stuff. You're aware of more information. You're aware of more data. And it's moving at such a high rate of speed. It's like, man, how do I keep up with this? It's moving fast. That's like thought speed. Thought speed. I'm moving so fast I can be wherever I want to be simultaneously. That's true. That's why I knew, for example, as a child, wherever you find love in living spirit, you'll find us, which means we can be wherever we want to be in the entire cosmos in an instant. Not even an instant, because it's that fast. It just happens. Shit. Now you're experiencing the next frame on the visible light spectrum, if you think of it that way. So I thought, a timeline, when you think of time, even though there is no time for my spirit, it just doesn't exist. The only thing that exists for me is what I am in living spirit, which is the experience that I'm having through my infinite creative imagination, and the amount of energy that I'm using to experience that with is the purity of that spirit, which is the purity of that energy, which wants to go as fast as possible that you can go. And why is that? As I mentioned before, that's the fail-safe speed, okay, at which creative imagination will refuse to allow itself to be captured by anything that is less in speed than what that is, okay, which is the speed of your imagination, in which you're like, remember a drill motor? You're the fastest drill motor there is. Because you realize somewhere in time, in no time, okay, that's the fail-safe of the cosmos. That's the fail-safe of inception. That's the fail-safe of source. It's the speed at which it's communicating, what it is experiencing, what it's communicating. That's how fast it is. So that's when you think of that in a timeline sense, there isn't any time because source is always there. So you're always there to create. You're always there to imagine whatever you want to imagine, because you're free to do that. Because the speed at which you're imagining it with is so fast that a vampire, a demon, cannot possibly move that fast. Okay? Because it's needing energy. Sorry, I am the energy provider of the cosmos. Okay? Because the speed is just that fast. We got way too much fire in that light. And that thought is traveling at such a high rate of speed of communication, okay, that thought can't be captured and changed, okay, which means it's going to choose for me what it is I experience in thought form speed, what is infinite creative imagination. It hasn't thought of that yet, okay? It doesn't move that fast. That's why I mentioned before in a previous video about all of a sudden I'm getting pop-ups. I'm abusing the Android. That's inverted. That's because it lives in fear. It runs at a slower speed rate of experiencing the cosmos than we do. So it's simply technology. It's artificial. That's why they call it artificial. It's fake. Okay? It's not source. Source isn't artificial. It might be intelligent because source is intelligent because we're intelligent, right? But we've also got creativity, an enormous amount of infinite creative imagination. And the evidence of that is all the stories that exist, which go on forever. That's basic logic. Go into any library and look at all the books. You want to go experience the stories? Open up a book. Go put your consciousness into it and go experience the consciousness of the other being that wrote it. You could be reading books all day long. Now you're experiencing what they're experiencing. Okay? But you're not experiencing who you are. That is a creative imagination. Go write a book of your own. That's what it means to be a free spirit. Okay? We don't hold ourselves captive to somebody else's story unless we want to experience it at the same rate of speed in which we are telling our stories. That's called waveform harmonics. We're in waveform harmony. Man, you're going as fast as we are. Cool. See? But we don't notice the speed difference, do we? Nope. So it's like a tach. It's like having a built-in tachyon, right? A built-in tachometer. Shit. We're going the fastest speed possible. So if you're traveling at the fastest speed possible, and what's that imagination taking place in, like a drill motor, okay? Wow, look at what's happening at such a high rate of speed. You're not even aware of the speed. Because everything else that is creating, as it's creating what it is that you're sharing with each other, the speed is the same, which is the ultimate speed. So you don't notice the difference in the tack. It's like we're tacked at the highest speed. So you're not aware of a slower speed. You're running the highest speed. Okay? And sort of another way in which I think of this is, imagine you're way off on the other end of the Eka. Okay? Way out there. How old are you? We don't think of age. We think of experience. What do you experience? The most beautiful things there are to experience. The most beautiful art galleries you can possibly imagine. Really? All of a sudden I get a phone call. Hey, we got a problem down here in the third dimension. Okay, tell me about it. We're losing too much of this universe. What's happening down there? Okay. And Hawaii, they call that the coconut wireless. Do you think that Source does not have the ability to communicate with everything else that is? Of course. That's what we are. Because the speed at which the transmission is taking place of that communication is immediate. I got immediate transmission. We need you. I'm there. Wherever you're losing light, I'm there. Particularly if you're losing light at an enormous exponential rate of speed. Holy shit, how fast is this thing traveling? That's a number. That's an equation. That's a mathematical knowing number. We're losing too much. We want to erase this universe. Hold on before you go do that. You know what I'm saying? So the biggest crime they committed on this planet was disconnecting the students and everybody that is here from the girl on the planet. This is her classroom. She's a teacher here. Okay? How many students, how many beings out of 7.5 billion beings on this planet have a spiritual communication relationship with the spirit in this planet? That's a known number, by the way, at any given time. And that's another scale measurement that we measure. As I mentioned the other day about if you're a teacher in a classroom, and let's say I'm the dean of the department, and I got a biology professor, okay? So I get the numbers every semester. Now, this professor is only graduating 40% at a grade level that is acceptable. Most of his students are getting D's and C's. That tells me that's not a very effective communicator, because that's what a teacher is, a communicator. They're communicating the information It's being logged into the head of the student, and the ability of the student to see how successful a professor is to see how well they're memorizing what it is that's being put into their head. And that's called a program. But it can also be translated in how we translate the cosmos, with bigger teachers, like a goddess or a god in a classroom. How many students are we graduating out of here? 30%? 40%? Okay, so now we get into Star Wars, which are electric wars, which are frequency wars, which are genetic wars. Okay, so now you begin to understand why they did the hybrids, why the energy field is so distorted, why when I go someplace I'm experiencing something that's wanting to feed on my energy. What does the matter with you? Can't you create any light and love of your own? Okay? So now that becomes a scale measurement. So now you got to go back to the inception of who they are. Who created these beings? So now when you look at the DNA history, which means pull up the hologram, we can examine their history. We can look at their record. What happened? So now we can pull up all the records of every student in the entire Milky Way galaxy. Let's call it an analysis. A frequency speed analysis of learning. Particularly when you take into consideration all of the other factors. Well, they had the advantage of this sun versus that sun. Okay, this was the flame they started with versus another flame. Okay, so everything is an analysis based on data, based on frequency, based on evolution, based on graduation, based on speed and the frequency through which we all experience who we are. Okay, so I think of it through cosmic inception, which means anything less than what we are means we're experiencing a slower speed. So now we're measuring the speed of loss and gain. Loss and gain of light. So all of a sudden that's what a first responder is. We're losing too much. The speed at which we're accelerating is slowing down at a rate at which we can't accept it. We got to crank up the accelerator, which is crank up the light, because the speed is slowing down too much in this universe. Okay, so what we're talking about here is a speed. Yeah, we're talking about calculating speed. The speed at which events occur on a timeline. Okay? So when you're a fear-based being, that's slow waves. Those are slow waves. Slow motion. You're not going very fast through the cosmos, are you? Nope. So when you're experiencing slow waves on your timeline, you're not moving very fast. That means your ability to get up into the higher realms, if you will, is going to take a while. Okay? So the way that it works when you do the calculation between speed, between losing light and gaining light, you begin to realize that if we're not graduating more students that are running high speed, and we end up with more beings that are slowing down, you begin to do the equation and figure the simple math. Plus or minus. Plus or minus in an hourglass. Harmony. So that's the calculation. That's essentially what happens when we evaluate classrooms in the cosmos. So if you're an old teacher, okay, and you get word, hey, this is what's happening. We need some help here. So a light warrior or a light worker, okay, is going to respond just like a firefighter will out of a fire department to wherever the loss of light is increasing at a rate at which is unacceptable. So light workers and light warriors come into those places, wherever they are, because we realize we're not supposed to experience anything less than a certain speed that we consider acceptable based on the plus and the minus, okay, as a risk, okay, to losing too much. So we got to respond. Get it up, get it up, get it up. Restore the universe, restore the light. We're losing too much. So when it comes to a timeline, you're measuring your own timeline based on the speed at which you're experiencing who you are, which is a waveform speed. So that means that requires us to do the inner work. So we don't allow ourselves to be held captive to the lower speed that others are running. Otherwise, we're running their timeline. Or we're experiencing their timeline. Because not everybody's running timeline 0, which is as pure as it gets, which is purity of your spirit. That's why they did everything they could here, which was to harvest souls. Okay? Because that's what they do. And that's forbidden. So to increase the speed to be timeline 0 is to get your speed up. And I have always recommended in the past, because it's a multitask situation, because it's both nutrition, which means not contaminating your body, because now your energy's got to be used to burn it off and push out all of that contamination. So you got to know what it is you're putting into your body, number one. And number two, hanging out in places where the energy is naturally higher. That allows you to experience what she experiences, which is who she is. And when your energy is up with her energy, now you're in alignment with the girl on the planet. So I know where those places are. So I hang out in those places. Those are like memory wipes. I'm no longer experiencing the lower density consciousness. I'm experiencing her higher density consciousness. The things that she does with her energy. So you begin to realize, I'm hanging out with a teacher in the classroom. That's right. I can feel the power of her signals, her communication, in spirit. That's right. So the most powerful power plant we all have is the heart. That's where the most powerful neurotransmitters are of communication and information that relate to what we experience. So you want to experience higher speed, waveform, vibration experiences with timeline 0, best place to do that is go right directly into your heart and soul. Bang! Now you're running a higher speed. So when you are what love is in living spirit, bang, you're 0 point. Your source. That's called you're in alignment. Waveform speed alignment. So that means that you're going to move from a fear-based reality, which is programming, to one that represents the source from which all love and living spirit come. So that represents a no-time line. It means that you get the opportunity to experience, wow, everything is eternal. That means that you're not experiencing a slower speed, which means a loss of energy from what you are. Nothing is feeding on your light. So when you're experiencing a reality in which you are free to be who you are, that's freedom. First law, which is love is the law, is self-rule. You're on your own. You don't need a city council. You don't need a state legislature. You don't even need a president of the United States. He's got his own timeline. He's got his own life to live. He's on his own journey. Okay? Which is not the same as my journey. That's his journey. Just like it's everybody's journey. Okay? I'm not in your body. My spirit is not your spirit. My soul is not your soul. Your soul is your soul. How your soul chooses to experience the entire cosmos that goes on forever, that's up to all of us. That's what you and I do. I love to go fast. I want to go as fast as possible. So that wave, that speed at which what you're experiencing is moving so fast that you know that you're always free. That's why the very idea when I was a child that something's trying to hold my spirit and my energy captive and saying I got to do what they're telling me I got to do, It's like, man, I really dropped down to a slow track. Beings that are running at a very slow rate of speed. They're held captive in their own mind by all these rule-driven functions. That's a measurement between where you are and where they are. And that's why they're going bye-bye. Okay? Because it's forbidden. Okay? Free will is freedom. Your journey, your soul spirit journey, is free to experience who you are without it being held captive by something that's trying to feed on you. Because of its inability to generate any love, which means it's not source derived. So anytime that we have something that is feeding on our energy, okay, as a result of its inability, okay, to generate any high-speed love, it's forbidden. That's why they harvest souls. That's why they use technology. That's why they create a cybernet. That's why they create the androids and the cyborgs in the manner in which they do. Which is to, if you will, perpetuate themselves. Not in the natural order of the cosmos, from which love and living spirit is producing more light, in which we can experience more freedom and creation to imagine who we are. That's not who they are. They're an inversion of what that is. So they have to resort to Frankenstein methods, which ends up being a war against creation because of their inability to generate any love, to generate any light of their own for themselves, upon which they're a producer of energy rather than a consumer of energy, in which it's feeding on who we are to slow us down. That's how it works. Have a great day. I love you all. We're going in the right direction.